Well, hello everybody. What a fantastic day it is. Gosh, we've had two wonderful days, at least in our region, in Eastern North America, the northern region just above New York. We're in Ontario, for that matter. We're enjoying some good weather, which is terrific because this is our time to make hay while the sun is shining, right? This is the important part of the time of the year. So I really hope that your year is off to a fantastic start and that April was a good month. Now, if you find yourself this time of the year, these questions, especially with our one-on-one coaching sessions, that, okay, I'm getting the leads, or more importantly, I find from our tracking progress and our blueprint calculator, I'm looking at the leads that everybody is getting and our closing ratio isn't keeping pace. This is the really interesting fact, is not keeping pace with Q1. Now, Q1 is the first quarter of the year, and that ranges from January 1st to March 31st. Generally, in the first quarter of the year, when people are reeling from the holidays and what they spent at Christmas time, the nights are longer, the days are shorter, and the weather is cold, and it's not really a great time to be out there. And consequently, if somebody is having to come in and shop at night and it is blowing, and in the northern 48 and in Canada it's snowing, that's not really an ideal time for us to be advertising hard and bringing a lot of clients in. Now, this time of the year, when that weather is long since past us and people are getting ready for summer holidays and road trips and they've driven their automobile through a salty winter, this is a terrific time for them to come in and consider buying a new automobile. And they think that to themselves as well. I'll get through the winter on my old vehicle and then I'll purchase a new one going forward and have that for next winter. At least the new one won't have to go through one winter. So what I find is with a lot of our calculations coming in, analyzing the KPIs of individual salespeople, that their closing ratio is actually better in January. It dropped a little bit in February, and it dropped yet again in March, which is to be expected. But here's the thing. It is way down in comparison to those months right now in this portion of the year. Now, we're talking about the first week of May, so we're analyzing the numbers for April. So if you find the very same thing for yourself, that you're getting a lot of leads, I wouldn't say you're swimming in leads, but it's probably considerably better than January, February, and March. And your closing ratio is hovering in the 1 in 5 range. You don't want to go much below that. You go below that, you immediately have to start looking at what is not working. And this is where the metrics really come in, because you may not even realize that your numbers are dropping. And here's the worst part. When our numbers go down and the KPIs, the key performance indicators, clearly indicate that we are not closing at the same rate, and we don't look necessarily at the activities that lead to the sale, we simply blame the customer. The customer is a fool. The customer is ridiculous. There aren't that many leads coming in. The leads that I am getting aren't any good. And I'm talking e-leads, calls, and walk-ins, because that's the primary share of your business right now. You still need to keep an eye on the unintentional buyers, those individuals and that traffic that you do control through your portfolio and dealership orphans and service department upgrades. But there's the human eraser, right? We really need to focus on these leads that are in the showroom, calling us on the phone and emailing in, because that's the low-hanging fruit. Those are the intentionals. Those are the ones that are really ready to go. Now, the intentionals are fickle because of advertising. We've talked about that before. We've also talked about that there are 4 types of buyer behaviors, and this is where I see us falling apart. But before I get to that, let me share with you what I think you should do right away, today, immediately. And this is an easy little tactic that you can do for yourself. You're going to track your walk-ins, your phone-in, your repeat, your referrals, your network, and your service department upgrades. And all you simply do is you can do this on a plain piece of paper, and you say to yourself, okay, leads would be your top line, and under leads you would have activities that lead to the sale, and underneath the activities we're going to have sold. From the sold number, we're going to divide that into the leads number, and that will give us our closing rate. Anything less than or equal to 1 and 5 is an alarm. All alarm bells should go off at this point because you're churning through leads. And that can only be because of a couple of small tweaks that you can do instantly and right away today to change all of that for you. Because at the end of the day, there's 4 things that we need to have. And you've got one right now. My 4 pillars of success are these. Number 1, you need to have prospects. You can be Ninja the Super Closer. You can be the most fantastic negotiator. You can be Chris Voss, master of negotiation. If you don't have anybody to negotiate with, then you certainly aren't going to have anybody to close. So prospects are the number 1 thing on the list, and this is what 99% of automotive trainers, in fact, I will go so far as to say 99% of trainers, teachers, authors, speakers in the world of any industry that relates to sales don't talk about. And it absolutely floors me, and it speaks more to the volumes of the fact that they didn't actually do it. They're not actually selling. Always remember, I was a Chrysler dealer. I still am a registered automobile dealer to this day. So everything I share with you is tried and tested out on the showroom floor. You need to have prospects. I know this as well as you do. I really hope that you will eventually move forward and join our manifesto where you can earn a 6-figure income with ease, selling double digits and doubling your production right now. You can figure it out. You can do as I did and take the 30 years to figure it out, but that's 30 years. In the meantime, you can do as I have, condensed and crammed it all into one fantastic system, not a training program. This is not a training and a how-to sell cars. This is an A to Z, A to Z training system that absolutely guarantees and warranties that you will get to double digits, 10, 20, and 30 vehicles per month with predictable consistency, because I'll hold your hand all the way through until you do. So the second thing that you got to have is obviously the presentation skills. Now, everybody thinks that I'm always going to jump when in a live classroom setting. Everyone thinks that I'm going to jump immediately to, you got to have closing ability. You've got to be able to have tricky talk tracks, and you've got to have a commission breath, and you got to have those slimy lines. Well, here's the thing, and there's the reason why I've emphasized how the lines and the talk tracks don't work. Now, not to say that they all don't work. Some of them are patented and will work forever, but there's a formula to use with every single closing scenario, and especially with I Want to Think About It. And you saw me post recently in the group, is anybody struggling with I Want to Think About It? And quite frankly, I'm surprised a lot of you didn't mention, yeah, I'm struggling with it. And shout out to Victor. Thanks so much for asking, what is the answer, Victor? The answer really is, where are you struggling with I Want to Think About It? But here's the thing. When you've got prospects, and you know they're all going to say, I want to think about it, you know they're thinking about the automobile that they want to buy. So when does I Want to Think About It creep in and disturb and distract the buyer and derail your very best efforts to be able to sell this automobile? Well, my guess is, as we've talked about before, if you don't build enough value in the old to new vehicle, if you're not telling them about everything that goes into it, and if you're not taking that opportunity with aggressive buyers and sharing 3 features per position change in the walk around, if you're not getting them behind the wheel to sit in it and just start it and rev the engine and just see how smooth it is, and then while they're in it, get them to drive around the building, if you're not controlling how much of a drive and how long you go with a talkative, you may be just entertaining them. If you don't ask the questions and get the listener to open up, if you don't answer every single one of the questions that an enthusiast buyer is looking for, to the point where you're saying, I don't know a lot, you're going to feel really inadequate. You're going to feel really guilty that you don't know. You're going to make it up. This is where average automotive salespeople make a mistake, and they start telling non-truths. And they start saying things that aren't really accurate about the vehicle in order to, well, bolster their confidence again, make it look like they know what they're doing, build confidence. The sad part is we know how much research that a customer has done, right? We know those steps that they have transcended getting to you. Here's you at the top, right? They've thought about it, talked about it, researched the marketplace. This is where they spend 6 months. This is where they visit 180 pages. This is where they hit 60 different sites, right? Watching videos and seeing pictures. I'll tell you this much, on our dealership lot, if one vehicle exceeds 22 impressions, clicks, pictures, then that vehicle will sell within 72 hours. You know this stuff. And if you don't, well, this is fantastic. This has been invaluable. That is the purpose of taking them from where they are now, the vehicle they're currently driving, to the vehicle that they're going to go to. And with the inflation that we've experienced and how quickly automobile prices have risen, this is possibly going to be a shock to them. But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised for 2 seconds when they say, I got to think about it because of the price of the vehicle. You just need to come back with a dialogue that makes sense. The very fact that they spent 6 months researching the vehicle and nobody, I'm happy to debate this with any of you, nobody is going to debate with me that price tops their very list when they're researching for their automobile. So I just wanted to share those 2 details with you that I think are absolutely crucial. Without prospects, you got nothing. Without doing a presentation, you're going to have to rely on negotiation. And the problem with relying on negotiation is that, well, it just exhausts your gross. All right? If you just want to put stickers, and I lick my thumb and I do that because our sales board has the old style so that everybody can see how well they're doing all the way along during the month. We lick the little sticker, you tear it off, and then you put it beside their name in the box as it goes along, and then you cross it out when it's delivered. What you need to do with the pillars is recognize closing only comes into the equation at the very bottom pillar. Only once you have customers and you've moved them from where they are currently driving to where they want to be, then you can explore negotiation only after you've gone through a decent interview process, which in the old days would be called counseling qualifying. I think interview sounds a little friendlier. I think it sounds a little easier. Quite frankly, the purpose of the interview is to tell them what we have, narrowing down to selection that you know is on the ground, and find out if they have a trade-in, and then, it's tell them how much the advertisement is. Is that within their ballpark range? Because when you leverage these pillars and you know your activities that lead to the sale, remember, you don't get a second chance for a first impression that leads you to your qualification, right? Finding out this is the customer, this is the new vehicle, this is the trade-in, and this is the advertisement. These are the numbers. This is how you close without negotiating. This is how you get all of your clients. If you're closing less than or equal to 1.5, then you're probably not doing this step right here. If I were to meet you and you were to say, Bill, I'm really struggling. I've spoken to X number of people. I'm at 1 in 7 because I've gone through the worksheet that you suggested. It's probably that you're not trial closing at the very beginning. Now, trial closing happens ahead of that as well. Everybody thinks closing happens at the last step, right? From here, then we go to the selective walk around, and we go out to our demo drive, and we go out to a trade appraisal, and now we go to the purchase consultation. So what happens 9 times out of 10 is at the very beginning, when we first meet somebody on the showroom floor, we ask them, how's your day going? What's happening? Have a little bit of conversation, and that's fine. I think it's weak, but that's fine. If you're comfortable with that and it works, keep doing it. I'll never discourage you from doing what works. But here's the thing. If you were to ask them, which particular model did you come in to see and drive? Wouldn't that be a trial close? Wouldn't that be fantastic? One of your 4 pillars, you're already closing them right out of the gate. You're letting them know what you are here to do, that is business. And then, of course, when we put them into our interview process, now we can structure that vehicle that we want to show. And that's bridging the gap between what the new vehicle will do over what the old one will do. And this moves them from a logical state of mind, which is this, right, to an emotional state of mind, right? That is how easy it is this time of the year to ensure that, as I stated in the post, we are optimizing the close. This way, closing doesn't happen just at the purchase consultation, which is where everybody puts the emphasis on, right? We don't tell them what the price is and confirm that they really like what we're presenting and that it makes sense and they could see themselves owning it. We don't answer the price question over here on the demonstration drive while we're telling them how great it is and proving the claims that we made during the walk-around presentation. And when it comes to the trade-in, we got to tell them that we pay wholesale for trades and we sell for retail, and don't use any of those words ever. Oh my gosh, that's the fastest and quickest way to destroy your closing ability and open very contentious negotiations. Pick your words carefully, very, very carefully. It's trade in and advertised. Okay, and especially when the client says, maybe I'll sell it myself privately. That we're getting ahead of ourselves. Now, when we move to closing, the challenge is, and you could say, okay, Bill, I'm doing all of that stuff. I'm following. I talked to a guy this week, and he's selling 10 cars a month, and he wants to sell 20, and he says to the program, he goes, I'm doing all that stuff. I'm doing everything that you've laid out. I'm doing it absolutely perfectly. I'm still selling 10. That can't be the case. But, okay, I'll go with your negotiation. So tell me how you negotiate right now. And quite frankly, all of us in the automobile business close by asking the client if this much bi-weekly or weekly or daily, if you can quote daily, likely monthly, is affordable. That is a trial close, because if you don't know the answer to this, if you are really asking to see if it is a yes or a no response, then you have delivered up a trial close. And what you're looking for at that point is, if I get yes, then I proceed on. If I get no, I need to pivot and offer these choices. And I would agree with you. That's a fantastic idea. But here's the problem. When you wait to the very end to deliver that question, now when you pivot, you've got to do the 8 activities that lead to the sale, which each one of those pivots that you're moving to, which is not what you got the client excited on in the very beginning. So now you have to rely on negotiation. And here's how negotiation works. Every customer is different. And so we have these aggressive customers. We have talkative customers that just like to talk your ear off, and they're a lot of fun to have around, and you'll find that they're one of your favorite customers because you get to talk and talk and talk. But here's the problem. They talk so much, they suffer from attention deficit disorder, right? They're all over the map. A squirrel runs by. The transport truck passes in the background with a boatload of new product that's about to land on the ground. And they're like, is that one available? Is that one available? Is that one available? How much for this one? How much for this one? And typically, these people are beer budget with a champagne taste. So as much as they know what they should be buying, which is probably a little lower trim level of the particular product that they have to have, possibly even something that is pre-owned with a little bit of mileage to save themselves some money. But no. They like the luxury one, the one that is in your showroom, the one that has all the bells and whistles. And the problem with that is affordability, and consequently, you've seen it before, they fill out the credit application, and then we start to pivot afterwards, even though they've said yes. Now, with talkatives, you need to be a little bit more forceful and demonstrative. You need to take a little bit more control. And I've said before, do not expect to take control of your customer. When you take control of the customer feels like they are being taken advantage of, and they won't be happy about that. On the other side of the equation, if you just let a talkative go on and on at great length and ask about every single product and get 9 payments on every single one, you haven't narrowed them down to the one that they need to own and the one that they'd love to have. So with talkatives, take a little bit more control. With aggressives, only 2 aggressives respect each other. Now, if this isn't in your nature, this is where training comes in. I'm educating you on this if you're seeing it for the first time, but the training that we will do, the coaching that we would do is practicing and rehearsing and role playing. And I know you probably don't like role play. Quite frankly, I didn't either in the very beginning. But when we look at the professional athletes that we just love to watch, play our favorite sport to the highest level of talent and skill, the reason that they're at the highest level of talent and skill, and the reason why they do such a great job entertaining us, is because they practice and they practice and they practice more. In fact, if they're going to be on the team and make a lifetime out of this, they may be practicing for the next 5, 10, 20 years. And what do we do in our professional lives? And look, you're not alone. Don't feel bad about it. All salespeople do this. We think that we can just go out there and wing it and pretend that we understand what the client is looking for. We read a couple of books. We watch a TikTok. We watch a free YouTube video, and they give us some tricky talk tracks and some fancy lines and a few cliches, and off to the races we go. And we still really don't understand how to see that customer, seeing themselves in that vehicle. We really don't get that until we practice and role play it. And that's where your talk tracks don't become tricky. You may use some of our patented closing lines, especially our objection handling formula, which works so perfectly well with I Want to Think About It, and refines it right down to what they need to think about so that they can go home. Even if you're going to let them go home today, even if you can't stop them, you're going to let them go home with all the information that they need to make this decision without feeling controlled. Nobody wants to feel controlled and forced into making a decision. That's what average ordinary automobile salespeople do. And that's why your KPIs that you follow determine that you're not having success. Now, there is the listener. Now, the listener listens twice as much as they talk. And so when you're negotiating with a listener, they will leverage silence. The talkative will leverage begging and pleading. The listener will leverage silence, which our spouses, parents, children, sometimes our bosses are excellent at. Creates an enormous amount of pressure. Just like if I was to hold a garden hose up to this drywall for long enough and with enough pressure, it would eventually wear a hole in the drywall, which is exactly how the Grand Canyon was created. It's the erosion, which is the pressure of time and the water flowing through it. If they leverage silence long enough, well, because you're an extrovert personality and they could be an introvert, you're going to blurt out, what if we could do it for less? If we could come up with a price that would really make you happy on your trade, and do you think we could do business? And that's what erodes your commission, and that's what starts the negotiation all the way on a sliding scale to no commission. This is really what I want to get through to you, that if we're not on the right vehicle from the very beginning, all the negotiation in the world may not be enough to put this deal together. You may be a master of negotiation and rely on that, but if you haven't taken them from where they want to be at the old car to the new vehicle, you know they want the new vehicle. There's no reason for them to be in your showroom otherwise. There's no reason for them to call. There's no reason for them to email. They want it. Unquestionably, they want it. They may even need it, but they're going to put on a front that suggests that they don't have to take it. And the last one is the enthusiast. And with the enthusiast, the challenge that, first of all, the aggressive is the screamer and the table pounder. They're going to intimidate you into negotiation. The talkative is begging and pleading. The listener is silence. And the enthusiast, because they're really not confident in negotiation, but if they've done enough research, they have discovered that you can leverage negotiation in those 3 capacities to exert pressure on you to make this deal come together. This is how you optimize closing. This is how you will improve your sales figures. This is your goal, to get to a 1 in 3 closing ratio. Because in order for you to sell 10 vehicles at a 20% closing ratio or a 1 in 5, you need to speak to how many people? Right? At 1 in 5, you need to speak to 50 people. Now, if you divide that by the 27 days that you can work in May, or almost 2 people per day, in order for you to be able to sell 10. If you're not getting that now, or if you are getting that now, fantastic. You need to get that up to 20 sales, or at least 15. Now, how do you get to 15? Because here's where the numbers stay consistent. Your dealership probably isn't getting you any more than 50 leads, depending on the market that you're in. If you're in a very large metro market like I'm attached to, these numbers could be off. It depends on the brand that you're with. Lamborghini, I don't think you're getting that. Kia and Hyundai, Honda and Toyota, and Chevrolet, Dodge and Ford are probably getting a lot more than that this time of the year. But here's the thing. You're probably winding up with 50 leads anyhow. And this is why I prefaced it all with the worksheet in the very beginning, where you track the numbers so that you can figure out how you can get better. And in order for you to get to 15 or 20 or 30 vehicles, then if you can improve your closing ratio by optimizing your closing activities that lead to the sale, starting with the very first step, then you can quite easily get to a 1 in 3 closing ratio. So now, to sell 15 automobiles, how many people would you need to speak to? If you sell 15 at a 1 in 3 closing ratio, we'd be 15 and, oh my gosh, look at that. At a 1 in 3 closing ratio, you only need to speak to 45 people when you're currently averaging 50. You can do it with less people on the floor. And this is why I say our system will have you selling 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 vehicles per month with predictable consistency, because it's a system. It's not just a training program that focuses on closing. It's not a training program that focuses on the activities of the sale. It's not just a training program that focuses on negotiation. It is a training program that it is a training system that you could call a program that is full of modules and no video longer than 8 minutes to watch, which will have you closing with only 45 people at a 1 in 3 closing ratio, getting yourself 15 sales. This is how, I hope you really see how easy it is to sell double digits and lift your numbers. And we didn't even talk about, this is walk-in. These are the intentional ones. These are the people driven by advertising. We didn't even talk about how to get your gross up on every single deal and how easy it is to do that. My name is Bill Harvey with the Auto Sales Academy. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this and you're having a fantastic month. If you want to know more about the manifesto, I will drop a link in the comments, and obviously follow me along for next week. We'll have another session like this where I can help you incrementally change your career, change your role right now. I'm more than happy to do that, to build the know, like, and trust badge of honor with you, to the point where you say, okay, this is it, Bill. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take my career to the next level. Look, if you're struggling to get 10 units per month, if you do not believe that every shopper is a buyer, if you feel like you're competing with colleagues on the floor, like you've been thrown out on the floor to sink or swim, I'm here to help. If you don't believe that this is possible for you, I'm here to help. You really, and I get it, I've been there. You speak to anybody who has any kind of illustrious career in the automobile industry, they can share with you their story of rags to riches, and then back to rags, and then back to riches, because it's a roller coaster. Your career does not have to be like that. I built the manifesto to flatten out those peaks and valleys. Yes, the peaks aren't as illustrious and great. The valleys aren't as deep as they used to be. You know, a guy told me a story. I'll leave you with this. A guy told me a story yesterday, and it was absolutely fantastic. And he thought that I had actually told him, so I definitely cannot take credit for it because I didn't. A lumberjack. A young man decides that he's going to become a lumberjack. Maybe you've heard this fable. Maybe you know the story, so bear with me. The young man goes into a lumber camp and says, I want to be a lumberjack. And the manager says, well, you know, like, how many trees can you cut? He said, I can cut more trees than anybody, bar none, absolutely every single day. I'll outperform everybody. Just please give me a job, give me a chance. I can do it. So the manager gives him a chance. So he goes in and he's looking at all the other people, and they're cutting their normal, predictable level of trees. And there's one guy that is the high performer, and this new guy just demolishes his targets. And he's not taking breaks in the morning like the rest of the team is. He's not taking his lunch, and he's continuing to cut trees. And after the first week, he cuts a few less trees. And so the rest of the crew is catching up to him. And then the next week, he cuts a few less trees, and he feels like he's putting in even more effort. He's not taking breaks. He's not taking lunch. He's working late. And then by about a month goes by, now he's cutting less trees than the high performer, and he's back down to the average where everybody else is. So the manager's like, hey, you know what? You promised me that you would cut the most trees. And he's like, I don't know what's happening. I'm working so hard. I'm swinging the axe so much. So one day, the young man, very, very intelligent in my opinion, decides to watch with the old man who was the high achiever, who became, fell below him, so fell to second place, but has taken back over, cuts the same number of trees. He only comes in at 9 o'clock in the morning. He takes his breaks. He takes his lunch. He leaves at 5 o'clock, same predictable number of trees. Doesn't look like he's expending a whole lot of effort. He's just doing it consistently over and over again. So the young man follows him around because that's the right thing to do, right? Emulate behavior of a high performer, a high achiever. So he watches the old man on his lunch go down to the riverbank. And the old man puts his lunch out and takes his time and he rests for his hour. But here's the thing. While he's on his lunch, he takes out a sharpening stone, spits on the stone, and he starts sharpening his axe for a half an hour, for 40 minutes, for the whole hour while he's eating his lunch. He's got to take a bite of his sandwich. He's got to take a sip of his tea. And I love that story so much. Shout out goes to Sean Ramson, who told me that story. Wonderful guy, super general manager. And, you know, it really makes a lot of sense. Are we sharpening our Are we sharpening our axe on a regular basis? Are we looking at the things that we are doing that we can do better, more efficiently, like the high achievers? And that's what the manifesto does. Give some thought to investing in yourself. Gift yourself this magnificent opportunity that exists right now while the sun is shining, our hay is growing, customers are walking into the showroom. This is the time to do it. You don't want to be making this investment in January. In fact, you won't. I know you won't. You know you won't. Now is the time to do it when you know that the return on investment will be absolutely unquestionably paid for in less than 30 days. And this is the best part. It lives on in perpetuity forever. Developing predictable, consistent sales for you. If you live in Canada, please reach out to me for the Canada Job Opportunity Grant. If you are a sales manager or general manager, and ideally a dealer principal and owner, or the VP of your group and president of your group, please reach out to me. You are eligible to receive our tuition 100% paid for by your province and your government, your federal government, on this sort of thing, and you'll get my program